Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chasing a Murderer. Today, we are on part 159 of The Life Beyond the Grave, which is attached to the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell story. Today, I have added pictures to this, but it's going to be mostly audio. I really do need to try to get this series finished. It's a very important story, and it's very important that we get the truth out there, at least the truth that we can pull out of it. We left off with Alex Cox and Chad Daybell on Chad Daybell's property. We believe on September 9th in the morning hours between 9:30 and about 12 noon, they murdered and disposed of Tylee Ryan. Alex Cox leaves the property and heads back to his apartment. According to the FBI agent Balance, he gave us a timeline of what kind of happened. The phone communication between Chad and Alex was active. Their phones were active together. And that morning of September 9th, it's a Monday, Chad's property, Tylee Ryan's remains are broken down by fire and by using tools to dismember an innocent teen. These very malice actions were barked by no other than Lori Vallow, the teen's mother, and the mother's lover, Chad Daybell. Remember, they had been to the temple to prepare and seek answers to this very evil mission just days before. So Alex Cox had returned home. He stays at his apartment that afternoon. This leaves Chad Daybell to tie up any loose ends. We know that Chad was in his yard and working because his son Garth gave us a clue. Garth was returning home that evening around 4 o'clock. He pulls into the back driveway where he says his dad comes up to him immediately, and he seemed very excited. He was also in yard work clothes. Chad tells his son Garth, "I killed another raccoon." According to Garth, Chad shows him the area where he buried this animal or slash Tylee. We know it's not an animal. We know it's Tylee. Whether or not he showed Garth the exact spot is unknown because, according to Garth, Chad tells Garth that he buried this raccoon behind a silver shed. And according to Garth as well, that is where multiple killed animals were all buried. Chad's son admits that they don't usually bury these animals in the pet cemetery that belongs to Tammy Daybell. But in this satellite photo, it shows that there is a hole, a freshly dug hole, in the pet cemetery this day. Just before Garth come home, a few hours before, Chad Daybell got a message around 1 o'clock from his lover, Lori. It's nothing to say like, "Where is Tylee? I haven't seen her. I miss Tylee. I'm trying to find Tylee." No, it's nothing like that. It's, "I'm missing you desperately." It just sounds like to me that these two are getting off on these evil deeds that they're doing to other people. I found it very peculiar that Chad made sure that he met up with his son as he pulled up in the driveway and giving him reasons as to why he's in the yard. He says that he's working in the yard, something that's not, something Chad really does. Instead of telling his son that he just insisted or helped in a murder and to dispose of his lover's daughter, Tylee Ryan. Garth seemed to have no clue of what his dad was talking about, really, or that he could even do something so evil or horrific. Garth had no idea at the time that he was standing on this horrific, horrendous, murderous scene. And for me, it gives you a glimpse of how selfish and evil Chad Daybell is. He had no guilt for exposing his entire family to the murder scene for his own lustful desires. We know that Tylee Ryan's remains were charred. And how long does it take to cremate a body in a backyard? Well, that depends on the environment, the factors, the variables, but it would at least take several hours. Considering what forensics said that they found of Tylee, they didn't have long in order to do so. So most likely, they didn't have enough heat or enough hours to finish the job. Again, Lori Vallow has not once had any concern for Tylee Ryan. Lori is a manipulator, a woman who manipulates people to get what she wants or what she wants them to do for her. People are tools, and this includes her own children. And at this point, Chad Daybell threw out any piece of that godly man he claimed to be out the window. Instantly, he had become the enemy to anyone not on Lori's list, which means he became an enemy to his own family. Interestingly, investigators will actually find GPS information to actually match up with everything that happened September 9th. And it doesn't look good for Chad nor Alex. Around this same time, you have David Warwick, who isn't really in the picture at this time, getting in with the Preparing the People group and doing Preparing the People podcast through their network. I wanted to kind of mention that so I don't forget, because we'll start talking about David Warwick shortly here. Now, did neighbors or anything hear gunshots? A lot of people were wondering, how is it we're not hearing anything about the neighbors talking about a fire, gunshots on September 9th? At Chad Daybell's trial just 7 months ago, a neighbor does testify. Neighbor is Regan Price.
You got shot then? Yeah, and it was like, and they said it was a raccoon. And it was about that same time, we had set the timeline to Ron because we checked our phone, and it was like the Rob Wood? Is that the prostituting? Yeah. Okay.
If that's the date, but yes, I remember that conversation that I had.
Okay. And then you made some comment that you heard a shot and there was some discussion about raccoons. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then there was a further discussion about you, and it's unclear who you provided a timeline to, but you provided a timeline to somebody. Do you recall?
So my husband and I both discussed just some strange events that happened with the Daybells over the last year.
Okay.
And it was my husband and I creating a timeline together because, like I've stated, I don't have any dates.
Okay.
But there was enough going on that we were trying to figure out where everything was so that by the time we did talk to a detective or a police officer, it was informational and resourceful and beneficial to them.
Do you recall in a later interview where there was a discussion about you and your husband, and your husband made some mention about that he'd be a really good detective? Do you remember that discussion?
I remember that in the audio, but
okay.
That was my husband, not me.
So she explains that there's a possibility she heard the gunshot that morning of September 9th. What we have not learned to this day is why was it Tylee Ryan was cremated in a fire? Was she some type of offering, or was it a way to just get rid of evidence? Well, they didn't do a very good job getting rid of evidence, but a lot of people believe it could have been a gift to the ascending heaven. Burnt offerings, where the entire sacrifice is consumed by the fire, signifying a complete surrender to the deity. As the smoke rises towards the heaven, as does the sacrifice. Another reason speculated is that perhaps This was their attempt to, excuse me, to prevent another zombie from jumping into Tylee's remains. Another question, since Chad Daybell believed that his property was important, it was part of Jesus Christ's second coming, was he using some of his property as an altar? These are answers I continue to work on. For Chad Daybell, things just got real. He's realizing Lori wants something done, it gets done now, and it's not done quick enough. Does Alex Cox truly believe in what this couple is teaching him? No one knows. No one understands why Alex Cox does or is suspected of doing what he did. Why does he do it? No one has come up with a reason or an answer for this, not even his own family. This is his own niece, someone he supposedly loved. According to several witnesses that were in this group, they say that Alex would do anything for Lori. But considering what happens to Charles Vallow, Tylee Ryan, and others in the future, it makes you really wonder about where Alex Cox's head lies. I left out a very, very important detail. We spoke about this raccoon that Chad buried in the backyard. But where does that come from? Well, after Alex Cox was on Chad Daybell's property all that morning on September 9th of 2019, it's around 11:52 that he leaves the property and heads to Del Taco. At 11:53, a concerning text and one of the biggest pieces of evidence that suggests what might have happened to Tylee Ryan goes down here. Before Garth shows up around 4 p.m. that afternoon, after Alex Cox left the property, Chad Daybell texts his wife, Tammy Daybell, a message, which seems to be a very excited message. There's several reasons why this message actually stands out more than any other message. And that's because, according to FBI agent Benjamin Dean, Chad and Tammy text each other, but those texts are very short, and that is why the text on September 9th about the raccoon stands out, because it was lengthy and it was in more detail than what Dean could find on their past text. And I'm going to share his testimony here.
Can you read the contents of that message? I'm going to shower now and then go write for a while at BYU. Love you. And the third message, who sent the third message? Chad. The third message? Excuse me. The device user Tammy sent the message to Chad. And what was the date and time of that message? The date was the 9th of September, 2019, and the time was 1:47:01 p.m. And what was the content of that message? It read, "Good for you." And the last message on that page, who sent the last message? That one was sent by Chad to the device user Tammy. And it was sent on the same date at 1:48:14 p.m. and it read, "I'm back home now." So, Agent, you testified that you found these messages as part of your analysis of Tammy Daybell's phone. Correct? Correct. Why did these messages catch your attention? The first message in particular stood out to me because it was simply longer and more detailed than any of the other messages that had been exchanged or would be exchanged between Tammy and Chad as they appeared on this device. So generally speaking, messages sent between the two were relatively short and they dealt with things, routine matters, household matters, and things of that nature, such as whether one or the other needed to pick up a check or deposit a check, whether animal feed needed to be picked up for any of the animals that lived on the property, what time one or the other was coming home or leaving the house, and so on and so forth. And this message was the only one that was on this device, in which Chad wrote to Tammy such a lengthy and detailed explanation of his day's events. Okay. And
So while Chad Daybell is on his property that morning, September 9th, with Alex Cox, he is texting his wife Tammy saying that he is taking a shower. That's around 10:56 a.m. that morning. He also tells his wife that he's going to go right for a while at BYU. This is most likely not true at all. While Alex Cox left the property, which we've already discussed, he's at Del Taco. He texts Tammy this lengthy, detailed message that really stood out to investigators. Chad Daybell wrote, "I had an interesting morning. I felt I should burn all the limb and debris by the fire pit before it got soaked by the coming storm. While I did so, I spotted a big raccoon along the fence. I hurried and got my gun, and he was still walking along. I got close enough that one shot did the trick. He's now in our pet cemetery. Fun times." For investigators, they realize that he's most likely talking about Tylee Ryan. Raccoons are nocturnal. Very, very rarely will you see a raccoon during the day. And Chad Daybell goes through with these plans that he and Lori made for an innocent child. At this point, Chad Daybell must realize just how deep he is into these very dark deeds. There's no turning back now. At this point, his options are to admit that he took part in something that is murderous, give up his lover and his future life with his lover, do the right thing, or get in or dig himself deeper into this mess and follow the snake into the den. Chad chooses to follow the snake into the den. He will continue to build lies, manipulate people, and help plan murders. From this point on, both Chad and Lori are equals. If Chad really wanted out of this, he could have done this the minute he realized how serious Lori was when they killed Charles Vallow, allegedly. Chad will continue to drag his feet a bit, especially when it comes to his wife, Tammy. So even though, he's making it seem as if he cares about his children, he's got these graduations, he wants Tammy to be there, they got these family vacations, his delay. It's really about painting him in this certain light he wants people to see him in. And he really thinks that he's this great manipulator. He's able to manipulate people in a way that he can control them and even make them see him in this light that he paints. Very strange individual in the way that he thinks. And the lack of remorse, the lack of empathy for all of these people that have died so far, Charles Vallow, Tylee Ryan, really gives you an idea of who these people are and why it's so easy for them to go through with these plans. Now remember, Lori Vallow's family, they will fight for her tooth and nail even when they know she's wrong. This is a very long history of such support for Lori. During this time, you have to wonder, how does Kay Woodcock feel? Because she is still very upset with the fact that Charles is no longer here and feels like there's something incredibly wrong. Kay's having to deal with a few people that I'm sure she's not certain if she wants to deal with, one of them being Alex Cox. You gotta remember that there's say that Alex Cox was supporting Lori during the Joseph Ryan attack. And she has her trust in Adam right now to pull through and help her try to save the kids. But it's too late for one of them. But remember, Kay Woodcock and Lori Vallow's family, none of them have a clue that Tylee Ryan is now buried in Chad Daybell's backyard. All right, guys, I'm going to end it here. And I want to say to you guys, thank you so much for your support. And if you don't mind, push like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to share your thoughts below, and also make sure that you share one of our missing girls on your social media today. I want to say thank you to those that have been helping me on Patreon. You have done it for years now, and I truly, truly appreciate it. I hope to do something special for all you guys that have been such a support, hopefully soon. And just remember, guys, I appreciate you so much. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.